On August 25th, 2022, version 1.20 came out on Gran Turismo 7. And besides this update releasing the best car ever made, this update also made changes to the tire wear and how it's displayed on your heads-up display. So overall, tire wear increased throughout the board, and it's a lot more visible to show how much tire wear you have at the moment. But this also introduced a rather interesting change. So when you're doing a race with tire wear, when the tire wear is anywhere from 0 to around 90% tire wear, your tires are basically fine. But once your tires are 90 to 95% worn, you get some rather severe tire wear effects. And as you see with this poor soul, his front left tire hit that point where he's getting the severe tire wear effect, and because it's his front left tire getting that tire wear effect, he's now getting severe understeer. Now you can probably imagine what would happen if his rear tires were to wear out. And as you can see now, his pace has dramatically dropped because of the tire wear effect. He has to slow down so much just to go through a single turn. And for the other cars that have a bit of tire life left, they're going to easily pass him. And his pace has dropped so much that within the first two sectors, he has lost 10 seconds from his personal best time of a 141. And it's only going to keep dropping because of his tire wear. Now, you're probably wondering why he hasn't pit out in this race. And that's because with this specific Nations Cup race, you can use any tire compound, but the best strategy was to do a zero stop on the racing medium tires. But with this strategy, you had to be really careful with your tire wear. That way your front tires can make all 12 laps. But if you started to get a bit too aggressive with your driving style, or if you started to mess up, you're not going to make it. And that's unfortunately what happened with this driver, to the point where he's now losing 16 seconds per lap. And for those who don't believe me, yes, it was possible to make the racing medium tires last all 12 laps before the tire wear effect started to take place. Because that's what happened with first place. He was able to drive so smoothly that his tires lasted all 12 laps. And that brings us to today's video, where we go into mission challenges, go into the Sun Also Rises playlist, and choose the Bathurst Group 3 battle. So this is a 20-minute race where you're only using the Jaguar F-Type Group 3. Interestingly, we do not know what the tire wear nor the fuel rate is. There's nowhere on the screens that shows us what those rates are. And normally for this race, you'd be able to do a pretty easy zero stop. But because of what version 1.20 update did with the tire wear, that brought some rather unintended effects to this specific race. So with this race, at least before version 1.20, all you needed to worry about was catching up to first place, overtake him, and finish the race. And tire wear and fuel were on before this update, but tire wear and fuel were not an issue at all. That's not the case with this race during version 1.20, because when the update increased the tire wear rates across the board, oh boy, yeah, tire wear became a massive issue with this race. So with this attempt, I'm not really going to be tire saving that much, and I'm just going to try to drive as fast as I can, do a minimal amount of tire saving, because I want to try to catch up to first place, overtake him, and finish the race. So I'm just going to try to drive fast and try to get past everyone, and hopefully I don't get into too much fighting with the other AI cars, because if I start to fight with them, I'm going to lose time. That's going to cost me a bit of tire wear, and that's not going to make my life any easier. So we're dealing with 9th place here, and I'm staying on a higher gear just to try not to speed up my tire wear anymore and hitting the wall like an idiot. But luckily I was able to get past 9th place, and we're going to go ahead and skip on over towards lap number 3, where there's already a bit of tire wear coming into display. It's not making an effect on me just yet. There's still quite a bit of tire life left, but the tire wear is there, and it's already getting a bit worrying. Now luckily I was able to catch up to 4th and 3rd place, so I'm just going to go ahead and just try to squeeze past him. Try not to waste too much time, but yeah, that little bit of fighting is going to cost me a bit of tire wear. Skipping over towards the end of lap number 5, you can see the tire wear is, oh boy, the tire wear is not looking good, and it's going to get pretty worrying because we still have at least 3 laps to go. Luckily, I was able to catch up to 1st place, so we're just going to try to push a little bit just to try to get past him and hopefully build up a giant gap because, yeah, I don't know if our tires are going to make it at this point because I might have been pushing just a little too much. So we're going to skip on over towards the middle of lap number 8 because, oh my goodness, just look at those tires. Those tires are just about to start dying of death. And at this point, I'm just going to start slowing down quite a bit because I don't want to find out what's going to happen once that rear right tire gets to that threshold where the tire just completely dies on me. And yeah, just taking it nice and slow through here. And it's going to be at this point where the rear right tire hits that threshold and just starts dying of death. Because the car is just gonna start to step out right over here, and that's where, yeah, things are now really scary. Luckily, there is a back street that we can just go through, so it's not going to be too bad for the next few seconds. But with a couple corners coming up, I know I'm gonna have to be extremely careful if I wanted to make it to the pit stop. Now, you're probably going to start wondering, hey, Mr. Idiot, why didn't you go to the pit stop at the end of lap number 7 and get new tires? Well, I'm about to show you what happens when you go to the pit stop in this mission challenge. So, going to pull it over towards the left before the final turn. It's going to take it really easy through this little chicane. And believe it or not, with this mission challenge, you cannot pit at all. That's right, if you go to the pit stop, you're just going to drive through it. You cannot get your tires changed, you cannot refuel, you're stuck with those tires, which makes this race a zero stop race. And because of this tower effect, this mission challenge became extremely difficult to complete. So with the rear right tire completely dead and 2nd place right behind me, this has basically become a nightmare situation. Now, I do want to point out that the other AR cars are experiencing that tower effect as well, because the Aston Martin up in front is going to overtake me, but he's going to have a hard time trying to get through this corner. So this Aston Martin is sliding around, but he's not having as bad as some of the other AR cars, especially if they are mid-engine rear-wheel drive. But this AI car is not going to be having it as bad as me because, yeah, my car is going to step out a lot, and yeah. So at this point, the Jaguar is becoming slowly more and more undrivable. It also doesn't help that the rear left tire is slowly about to die of death. And I'm just doing whatever I can to try to keep this car under control, but yeah, this car is not having it at all anymore. I'm just starting to go off the track. I'm starting to lose control, and I'm on 6th gear and I'm just trying to slowly accelerate, but again, the rear right tire is just not having it anymore, to the point where I can barely keep it under control. And now we go down the hill. This part is going to be extremely scary to the point where I'm just going to spin out and just, yeah. I knew that, yeah, we're not going to have a good time for this final lap, and the car is just barely drivable at this point. Just going to start whacking on traction control. I don't know why I didn't do that earlier, but as I'm about to find out, that's not really going to help me out that much because, oh, yep, just going to go ahead and spin around. And that's because the rear right tire, there's basically no grip in it left. And with all those spinning around, unfortunately, the rear left tire is about to die right about now. And even with traction control at 5, that's not really going to help me out that much. Unfortunately, 1st place in the Aston Martin has already run away with this win. And I'm just, oh god, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and hit the wall, go into the grass. And now the rear left tire has completely died on me to the point where this car is pretty much undrivable. Now I'm just over here just spinning around in the grass like an idiot. Just gonna try to just slowly crawl my way back to the finish line, but again, with how dead the rear tires are, even that seems like an impossible task at this point. And you can see, again, traction control 5, and I can barely drive this car because the rear tires are completely dead. So just gonna try to slowly crawl my way over to the finish line again. Try to survive this final turn, hopefully not spin out. Okay, we're gonna be fine through here. Now we can just go ahead and just crawl our way over to the finish line. And luckily, third place didn't catch up, but we still lost first place. And that's no good. And that's how difficult this mission was during version 1.20. Now, the right way of doing this race during that time was to drive pretty slowly, and you had to do some extreme tire saving to make sure that your rear tires were able to survive all 20 minutes. If you were fast enough, you were able to make it to 10 laps, but because of this tire situation, you wanted to do the least number of laps that you can get away with, which that number is 9. Now with this run, I'm going to be doing some extreme tire saving, so I'm going to be braking really early, use as little braking as possible, exit on higher gears, and be really gentle getting back on the throttle. And yeah, I really don't want to stress out the rear tires, because with the Jaguar F Type Group 3, it's the rear tires that wear out faster than the front tires. So I need to do everything possible to make those rear tires last all 20 minutes. So just going to be taking it really easy, and yes, I am going to be going slower, but that's pretty much what I need to do to make sure that the tires last all the way through. Because as we saw earlier, if any of those rear tires completely wear out, I'm going to be in a world of hell. So just being really gentle through here, really easy on the brakes, just letting the car coast through these corners. And as long as I'm slowly catching up to first place, then that's all that matters. And just being really gentle through here, really gentle on the brakes, not being too harsh with the brakes, slowly getting back on the throttle. And luckily we're going to go ahead and overtake 11th place. We're going to see if we can try to overtake 10th place before we get to the next braking zone. And luckily with the power of slipstream, I'm going to go ahead and overtake him. Now I will need to brake really early. Yeah, I'm braking really early, and hopefully the AI cars don't pump me, which they slowly, well, they're going to bump into me, but not completely pump me out of the race. But luckily I was able to survive that turn with the AI cars right behind me. And we're going to go ahead and work towards trying to capture to 9th place. And again, exiting on a much higher gear than one normally would if they're going at full pace. But again, our goal is to keep the rear tires alive for the entire race. So we're going to be doing some pretty silly things to make sure our rear tires last. But luckily, able to capture to 9th place on one of the straights. Gonna pass him without much of a problem. And again, brake really early. So we're braking about 50 meters early, and just trying not to be too harsh on the brakes, really easy on the throttle. And that's pretty much the name of the game when version 1.20 was out with this specific race. You can see that there is already a bit of tire wear, especially on the rear tires, but it's not as bad as in the other run. So if we keep it up like this, our tires should be able to last the entire race. And luckily we are still going fast enough to where we're slowly catching up to everyone. So we're gonna go ahead and pass 8th place thanks to the power of slipstream. Try to be really careful getting on the brakes, try not to stress out the rear tires too much. Nice and easy getting back on the throttle. And we're going to go ahead and carry on. So skipping over towards the middle of lap 4, I'm able to capture to 7th place, 6th place, not too far up ahead. And again, just trying to be really easy with this car. We still have quite a bit of tire life left, so things are looking up so far. And again, just try to be nice and careful. I think this section is really easy to mess up and have the car step out quite a bit. So again, just trying not to mess things up, trying to be really gentle on those rear tires, because every little thing that I do is really going to matter. And again, thanks to the power of Slipstream, I'm going to go ahead and overtake the Subaru. Now I'm just going to go ahead and fast forward through this because 6th place is not too far up ahead. So just going to slowly reel him on in, trying to drive as carefully as possible. And luckily, again, with the tower situation, things are looking up. So we are looking at being able to make it. Unfortunately, I did get held up a bit right here, so I do have to wait a bit before I can try to go for the move. And I'm just going to go ahead and just squeeze myself in and just try to get past him. And unfortunately, because I do have to be a bit more careful with how I accelerate and exiting on higher gears, the Corvette is going to pass me, but I'm going to try to go for the move again because I did lose a bit of time. But because he braked a lot right there, just going to go ahead and pass him without much of a problem there. Now, end of lap number 5. 5th place is right in front of me. Our tires are looking alright so far, but I don't want to push my luck just yet. I still have to worry about catching up to 1st place because he is more than 20 seconds ahead and I'm starting to run out of time. There's less than 9 minutes left in this race. And once again, thanks to the power of Slipstream, we're going to go ahead and overtake the Nissan GT-R. And later on in lap number 6, going to capture to 4th place and going to be able to overtake him without much of a problem, thanks to the power of Slipstream. Now, luckily, we are going to catch up to 3rd place during lap number 7, as it looks like they're already struggling a bit with the tire wear. I mean, they're going really slow, so I know the Audi R8 LMS tends to be horrific when it comes to tire wear, so I'm going to assume that they probably hit that tire wear threshold pretty early on. Now, luckily, 2nd place is not too far up ahead, and they're going pretty slow. And actually, I think it does look like tire wear is starting to affect them, as it did look like they were stepping out for just a moment. Yeah, I think their tire wear hit them pretty early on. Now comes lap number 8. So far, tire wear, it looks like we'll be fine, but again, I just do not want to push my luck, as we are 17 seconds behind 1st place. So we're gonna have to somehow find a way to catch up to them. Maybe tire wear will kick in for them and they'll go at a really slow pace. But either way, we just need to keep moving on and hope that our tires last to the end of the race. And we're going to skip on over towards the end of lap number 8, start of lap number 9, as we have gained more than 10 seconds on 1st place. We still cannot push because we have to make sure our tires last to the end of the race, but luckily it looks like this just might be the final lap. And you can see 1st place, he's going pretty slow and he's going to slow down a lot more once we approach this corner, and it's going to brake nice and early. Yeah, they're going pretty slow, so it looks like tire wear has started to take a toll on them. Yeah, you can see they're just stepping out quite a bit, and we're just going to go ahead and get past them. And even though we're past them, we still cannot push, as we have just enough tire life left to complete lap number 9. And we're going to skip on over towards later in lap number 9, as 2nd place is already 10 seconds behind. And again, just try to keep it really easy through here, slowing down really early on, just trying to be really careful through the final corners, as the rear right tire is just about to hit the point where the tire dies of death. Now, just one more corner, just take it really nice and easy. Try to be extremely careful, and that is it. Luckily, we're able to complete this race. We're just going to park it before the start finish line so the timer can hit 0 and we could cross the start finish line. And we're just going to cross the finish line before 2nd place catches up. And that was how you were supposed to complete this mission challenge in Gran Turismo 7's version 1.20 update. And that was again because the tire wear change unintentionally affected this challenge to where it became extremely difficult to complete. And this challenge only lasted 1 week, because on September 1st, 2022, Gran Turismo 7 came out with version 1.21, which ended up fixing the tire wear issue on this mission challenge. So basically, it looks like all they did was lower the tire wear and called it a day there. Now, still couldn't see the tire wear rate. I guess we'll never know unless someone tried to experiment with that. But yeah, this mission challenge became how it was in versions 1.19 and before, where all you had to do now was drive fast and catch up to first place and finish the race. And yeah, there is tire wear, but you didn't have to worry about tire wear until your tires were 90 to 94% worn, which is nowhere near where the tires are at right now. So again, don't gotta worry about tire wear. Just drive fast and call it a day there. But that's gonna be it for this video. Hopefully you like this video. And yeah, that's going to be it for me. This is Mr. MCA. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.